Gary, how do you see the short and medium-term future in HR? And also, and really important, how HR professionals can adapt to this new reality, because it's a really big change, right? So how can we adapt from the HR point of view?
So all of those, I mean, that's, again, every company, every culture will have to use a fit for purpose, what I like to call fit for purpose solution, because there's certainly no one size fits all. But this pandemic has obviously created this massive requirement on HR, as you discussed, to adapt, to figure out what's going on as fast as possible, real time, and implement solutions, and then you just communicate. People are feeling very concerned right now about their well-being. Some are fine. Some think, okay, I've had the vaccination or not, and and they still feel like they're okay without it. But most people, I think, are still have at least some level of concern or worry about going back into the workplace. I know I deal with some people outside of our business, and quite a few offices are completely shut down still, and actually will be through, I think, September, I've heard in some places. And only then they're going to come back very slowly. So it depends a lot on the company's culture and what works within that framework for that company. So I think those are the kinds of things that we read about and hopefully we've experienced, because we as HR professionals have been on the forefront in implementing these things. Some of the things I think, in terms that we're going to have to continue to look at as people come back to work, this has always been there, but I think just like technology and some of the other things we're talking about that will need to be advanced, we need to pay close attention to people's emotional and mental health care. It has different meanings around the world, but I know in the US, and I think a lot of the West, many cultures consider that to be less important than the physical ailments, but they're very real. And I think as we've seen over the last, probably 10, 20 or more years, it's gained in prominence. But I think the pandemic has really shown us the extent of what emotional toll can do to a person's ability to work, quite frankly, and work at their most effective level. So I think those are some of the things that we'll need to continue to look at. And finally, I guess in terms of next steps, remote work is here to stay. It's been, in varying levels, a part of our culture, our work culture, for as long as I've been in HR, which now is a very long time. So it's been there, but it's increasing. And just like I talked about with technology, Zoom and many other technologies, the speed, the pace at which these technologies are being adopted out of absolute necessity and flexibility on the part of employers to allow employees to work wherever they want and even whenever they want, depending on the nature of the job, I think that's just going to continue.
Well, we're talking about the present, let's say, but it's always good to remember the past too. So going to the HR fundamentals, Gary, because in this disruptive age, looks like the new is always better than the traditional, let's say, yeah? So what are the fundamentals you have learned throughout your career in HR that are essential learning for new generation, Gary?
This goes for any career field, but the fundamentals are absolutely critical. We have to learn how to build and maintain trust. That's true in HR. It's true in every single facet of life, I would argue. And that's so easy to say, and it's actually very hard to do. And there are two sides of that coin I always like to think about. many people choose to give trust before it's earned, the whole notion of earning trust. And then some people go from it from a different perspective. No, you have to, you have to earn my trust before I give it back to you. My own personal perspective is I very much like to give trust, and that has always worked well for me. Sometimes it goes sideways. You get burned by people who take advantage of that, but by and large, it works well. And then use that trust to find ways to build, collaborate across teams. One of the things I've always tried, sometimes better than others, but I've tried to practice within HR is get out of your office, go talk to people. And I don't mean that literally, but build coalitions. That will always serve us well, because none of us, HR, finance, logistics, general management, whatever the function, we don't operate in isolation. No person is an island. And so we have to find ways to get out and to work with other people, collaborate on projects, on day-to-day things. And that's the way these bonds of trust are built over time. And then just do what you say you're going to do. If I tell you I'm going to deliver on something, I'm going to do my best to deliver on something, or I'm going to have a good reason as to why I didn't. But always try to deliver on what you say you're going to do. Those things, again, are just very fundamental, I know, but I think it's still always good to remember the basics. And I obviously acting with integrity, being honest, trustworthy, showing up on time, all those things are critical. When you look specifically at HR, then some of those things also are absolutely fundamental. We are the function that's primarily tasked with going out and finding other people, acquisition, talent acquisition, sourcing talent. So we always need to have our radar up, our feelers up for good talent. Sometimes, there's always that ebb and flow. Sometimes we need a lot of people and depending on the business and the needs, sometimes you need a lot fewer. But I would even argue in the low periods of need, we always need to keep our radar up, keep looking for that talent, because it is indeed so critical to what we do. And it's the lifeblood of the business, obviously. And then also one of the other basics are making sure that employees know what they need to be doing, making sure that and that's not specifically the responsibility of HR, but partnering with people managers to make sure people know what they're accountable for, and then continually working with throughout the organization at all levels to do the best we can to make sure people feel like they're supported, that they know, in addition to knowing what they need to do, they have the resources necessary to get it done, and then helping managers understand how to hold people accountable in a humane way. And and that's always easier said than done.
Every day we hear more about progressive organizations. So they are organizations that seek new forms of culture and structures and ways of working. Yeah. So they look simplicity instead of complexity, people centricity, and collaborative ways of working. So where trust, for example, transparency or empowerment are quite central. Yeah. And you were also talking before about technology and how technology is here to stay, right? So how can we find, Gary, how do you think we can find this balance between humanity and technology in order to get closer to this kind of organization?
I believe that you just mentioned the phrase people centricity. I think HR, first and foremost, and this has been true for many years, needs to embrace technology. We have to have it, and we get better and are able to give better advice and make better decisions and drive all sorts of business change forward with good technology. And so the more we embrace it, understand it, and use it to its most effective means, that are better off we are. But you're talking about balance. And so I see those as an and. I don't think it's a however or a but. In other words, I don't think it's technology or, you know, good people relations or humanity. It's both, and that's what you're trying to talk about. What is the balance? And I was thinking about projects I've been involved in, really big projects over the years, and I think the best way to ensure the best possible outcome is to involve people at the outset. Talk about what is the end goal in mind. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the the power users of whatever technology is? Who are the day-to-day users who use it maybe more casually, but still need to have this technology do what it needs to do when they need to do it? So all of those fundamentals can be talked about up front. And what are we talking about? We're talking about change management. We know that well. I think HR is and has been for many years at the forefront of change management. And so that's a whole different, books can be written about it, courses, but without going into all of what change management entails, it gives us a tool to bring people together, both from the technology side, the tool itself, and then all of the users, so that you have a discussion up front. And to the extent that we're able to do that, take into account all the concerns that people have, all the needs they have once the project is finished, and figure out how does the implementation go. And then once it's installed, give people an opportunity, a voice to make tweaks and changes to it once it's running, so that they feel like they have, and not only feel like, so that they do have a say in the voice, or a voice in the outcome, as well as to make ongoing changes once the systems are up and running.